Hello, and welcome to The Renaissance Report, a freelance podcast series talking with educators and experts from everywhere on the need to improve climate, culture, and morale in K through 12 schools today, and how ideas from the Jostens Renaissance effort can help schools get there. Listen in as our guests discuss their experiences and ideas that have helped their schools achieve goals and just become places that people want to go to, not just have to go to. It's possible, and any school can achieve it. Our guest in this episode is Christina Onuskanich. She is a veteran teacher at Central Mountain Middle School in Mill Hall, Pennsylvania. Christina has been a Renaissance champion for a number of years now. In fact, so much so that she was recognized as a Jostens Renaissance National Educator of the Year in 2023. In this episode, she tells us about the various things that she has done with middle school students at her building, especially honing in on middle school, but also on student leadership. She has been a national leader using the Jostens Renaissance leadership curriculum to get students to become better leaders at all levels of schools. Some great information here as we start off with Christina. Okay, first off, transparency alert. This lady and I are really good friends, primarily we're friends, all right? Come on, because of Jostens Renaissance, all right? So want to introduce my friend, Christina Onuskanich from Central Mountain Middle School in Pennsylvania. Christina, hello, and thanks for being with me today.
Hi, Scott. How are you?
I'm very good, all right? We've been doing this together for a number of years, so when I put together this Renaissance Report podcast series, I thought, gotta talk to this lady, all right? So here we go. We're going to talk about a bunch of things. Two things in particular. One is you teach at the middle school level. And so we want to talk about Jostens Renaissance type ideas and so on, especially at the middle school level. And also you do great stuff with student leadership at the middle school level. And our Jostens Renaissance student leadership curriculum is terrific. You've used it very effectively. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. First off, let's start with sort of an intro, okay? Do me a favor, tell me something about yourself, your background, how long have you been teaching, what do you teach? And then perhaps when did you start doing some things with Jostens Renaissance? When did you decide, hey, we need to start trying some of that? Give me some background on you.
Well, I am just starting my 23rd year of teaching, and I didn't start off as a middle school teacher. I actually started off teaching high school Spanish, then moved to the elementary level where I lived for many, many years. Then I finally ended up at the middle school, and I think that this is pretty much my forever home now. In 2018, shortly after I started teaching middle school, I attended a Jostens Renaissance Leadership Collaborative. My students and I, as well as a colleague and I, we went to this conference not really knowing what to expect. That's where we met Scott finally in person and got to sit down and talk a lot. But then we also met PC and we were all just really inspired by his story. We loved the ideas that he shared. The amount of discussion that we had that day really springboarded what we then started at our school. So we took a lot of the ideas that we had learned that day, and we decided the first thing we were going to do was implement high five zones throughout our school. And the amount of energy that that small activity gave to our school really led itself to everything else that we've accomplished here at Central Mountain Middle School. So through the different events that we've attended with Jostens, we keep getting more and more ideas that we get excited about, and we quickly come back to our school to try to take on at the middle school level. And some of the things that we've been able to implement are High Five Fridays. We have a cafeteria cleanup crew that helps our cafeteria staff. We have students that sign up for those jobs to stay after lunch, help clean up, get everything ready, and they only have a couple minutes before the next group comes in. that has been extremely successful at our school. We've also helped our elementary schools now start to develop their High Five Fridays as well. We have recognition rallies every quarter at least, if not every month, for our fifth graders. Those have been extremely successful as well. The kids have a lot of fun with it. The faculty gets involved, and the energy that just comes out of those is contagious. We have used Jostens to enhance our PBIS program. So we do our student of the month, but we amped it up, and now we do a leader of the pack. Since we are Wildcats, we thought leader of the pack sounded pretty catchy. Last year, we started to have leader of the pack breakfasts. So each student leader gets to invite an adult to join them for breakfast with the principals. It's done first thing in the morning during the school day. And that really has proven to be an enjoyable experience for our students. And it just really showcases what they're doing as leaders. And it's a great way to say thank you, but also to let the parents come in and see what we're doing in our school, hear about the things that their kids are doing. And it's just everything that we get started with. It just adds more and more and more excitement, and our kids are really starting to understand that when they do amazing things, the payoff is so rewarding. The amount that they're able to accomplish really surprises all of us. Sometimes we think, okay, I don't know how this is going to go. Can our students really do it? But every time we give them an opportunity to take on another leadership role within our school, they really rise. And it's mind-blowing. I mean, these are middle school kids, and we have fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth graders in our school, and they all want to do well. And a lot of them really want to lead. So we're just finding more and more creative ways to let them lead.
That's fabulous. And now, folks, there was a whole bunch of ideas right there in a few minutes. And they're all right, Christina. These are simple ideas. We're not talking some 8-point plan or something which, all right, now you're a school teacher. I work with schools, okay? But sometimes I see these plans from, I don't know where they're from, administrators or whatever. It's like a 12-point plan. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of stuff. Everything you just said is really simple stuff. And all of them have had great effect. Yes, right?
Yes.
Amazing stuff. Now, let me mention, you said PC. That's our friend, Dr. Phil Campbell, who is one of our Jostens Renaissance champions, heroes, travelers. He goes all over the country doing all sorts of different stuff. Christina, give us some background on your school. Now, your school is located, I guess we would say, in north central Pennsylvania. Tell us something about your school, the numbers, maybe the makeup of your school. What is Central Mountain? Tell us about that.
So we are located in Mill Hall, Pennsylvania, and our school has over 1,000 students. I mean, we roughly bring in around 250 students per grade level, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So we're a big school, and there are a lot of kids. We have over 100 faculty on board as well. So, I mean, our school is definitely big in size, and our area is, very diverse. We have a lot of students who come from many walks of life, and we just keep adding different things to bring out the best in our students so that they get to love being at school. And sometimes it's hard because, we live in an area where there's a lot of people that want to hunt and fish, and sometimes those things can get lost along the way whenever it comes to going to school. So it's really important that we find activities that keep our students engaged. And one of the things that helps us do that is the leadership curriculum. And it really lets our students kind of look at the area that we live in and think about all of the wonderful things that it has to offer, things that maybe they take for granted sometimes. We have a lot of rural areas around here, but we're not very far from State College. We're not very far from Williamsport. So, our kids can get a lot of different experiences living in this area in central Pennsylvania. But yeah, it's a very unique place to live. And, when there's so many things to do here, making the kids feel like they want to come to school is sometimes a really hard challenge, because there's a lot of other things that they would rather be doing. They'd rather be outside, they'd rather be exploring. So, when we find something that gets them engaged, that's a deal breaker right there.
All right, let's see if we can turn the clock back a little bit. Now, again, you've been doing this for a number of years. I can still recall when our friend Mike Smith came to your school literally right before the pandemic started. It was like a month before, boom, the whole world just changed. But that was a big event. So you've been doing stuff since before that. So I don't know, maybe turn the clock back if you can. I don't know, 5 years, 6 years. What was your school like before you started doing some of the things that you listed a few minutes ago? What was school like before you started doing some Renaissance type activities?
Well, school was interesting.
All right.
It was definitely, you never knew what was going to happen when you walked in the building. And, we've come a long way with just really trying to develop our program and really showcase what our students are doing for the good. I would say that before we started Renaissance, our big focus was obviously on PBIS, and that was doing well. We were thriving there, but we just still felt like there was something missing. And then when we started to really dive into just some really simple things, like I said, with the High Five Fridays, and taking our student spotlight and amping it up, and sharing that spotlight with our staffaldy, and really trying to recognize people for the awesome things that they were already doing. That was the big game changer right there. You just felt the excitement go up. You felt that energy level go up. People were, happy. I remember the first High Five Friday we did, and so many people said, "Oh my gosh, that felt awesome." So, just those little things can really make such a big difference, and they're not hard to do. It just takes a little bit of time and planning, and then being consistent with it. It's not a one and done. It's okay, we've done this. It's really awesome, and now we're going to keep doing it. So, I think from where we were 6 years ago to where we are now, it's just that consistency piece, and always trying to find new ways to improve and, make everybody here feel like they really want to be here and that their time here matters. And that's, pretty much the focus of Jostens Renaissance. And that relationship piece, that's the other big one. We've really taken a lot of time since COVID to think about how we can make those relationships meaningful and authentic for not just our kids, but also for the adults in our building as well. So I think with, the different ideas that we get from Jostens Renaissance, that really has been something that changed the culture and climate of our school.
All right. Now, Christina, there's one question in this podcast series we're doing here. There's one same question I'm asking everybody out of sheer curiosity. All right. If you can go back 5, 6 years, like you said, compare it with today after the pandemic. And I hear this a lot. Kids today are just different somehow, some way. They're just different than they were a few years ago. Do you agree or disagree with that? What's your thought on that thought that kids are just different? What do you think about that thought?
Well, I think that kids are always changing because the world is always changing. My middle school experience is nowhere near what my own daughter's middle school experience was like. But that's not what this year's middle schoolers' experience is going to be like too. So I think that, every year there's something new, there's something that's changing, and we have to be willing to change with the rest of the world. And that's one thing that I love about Jostens Renaissance, because there's always new ideas. There's always, new things that you can add to your school that maybe already you're doing, but you're just doing it in a different way, because you can't always do what you've always done before. And kids don't want that either. They want something new. They want something exciting. And, I think one of the things that really is a factor for our kids is just how digital their world is. So that relationship piece becomes even more critical and more important. Our students have to be able to engage and interact with each other. And I think that is probably the biggest difference from 6 years ago, because they had a chunk of their life where they didn't get to engage and interact. So trying to give them opportunities to do that in a positive way is really important.
All right, let's talk about Renaissance again at the middle school level. Now, your particular school district, I think you mentioned this earlier, they're doing some stuff at the elementary level now, which is cool. There's you. They're doing some stuff at the high school level now, which is great. You're the one in the middle. I don't know, the tweens, I guess, is normally the reference here. I don't know, when it comes to this type of material and middle school kids, are there certain challenges, certain things that are, or I don't know, somehow more difficult or maybe easier when it comes to working with middle school students with all the things you're doing, as opposed to those kids at the other ends of the spectrum? What is there something special maybe about doing this at the middle school level? What do you think?
Well, I think that middle school is an age where they still love being kids. Even though they don't think they are supposed to be kids anymore, they really are. And giving them opportunities to still be young at heart is the important factor in anything that you're going to do. So it has to be fun. They have to enjoy it. They have to be excited about it. And I think sometimes we underestimate our middle schoolers. We might think, okay, well, this is more of a high school thing and high school leaders can take on this job. But our middle schoolers surprise me every single time we have an event. They're willing to get up on stage, take the microphone, lead events, lead activities, and they really get excited about it. So I think at the middle school level, we just have to really remember that they're still kids, but that doesn't mean that they can't be leaders.
We'll get back to more insights from our guest, Christina Onuskanich from Central Mountain Middle School in Pennsylvania, coming up in just a moment. And when we come back from this brief break, we're going to talk about student leadership. Renaissance has a fantastic student leadership curriculum program, and Christina, our guest in this episode, is one of the national leaders in using that particular curriculum. Now, if you're an educator or an administrator, think about student leadership in your building right now. This could be any level, especially high school, especially middle school. Student leadership across the board. Now, not just sports teams, maybe with sports captains or the student council, if they are indeed the student leaders of the building. There's a question: who are the student leaders of your building? If it's the popular kids or the most outspoken kids, is that necessarily the best folks to be your student leaders? One thought. A second thought is how to expand that student leadership group to include a lot more people from all grades, all ages, all different corners of your building. This group, that group, and so on. How to expand your student leadership so you have a much more vibrant school building that really represents the students of your school. If you're looking for help, go no further than the Jostens Renaissance website, jostensrenaissance.com. Go to the resources section and look for the link for the leadership curriculum. There you can get the basic information on this pretty groundbreaking list of lessons and ideas and insights. Of course, if you have a login to the Jostens Renaissance website, you get the entire curriculum absolutely free, no charge. And it is an extensive curriculum. In fact, while you're on that website page, if you scroll down just a little bit, You'll find a good quote from our guest, Christina Onuskanich, who again is one of the national leaders in using the Renaissance leadership curriculum. Notice her quote there. She says, "This is something students wish they could do every day." Now, do you have kids in your building you can say that about? If so, terrific. How can you make it even better? If not, it's time to get started. And the Jostens Renaissance leadership curriculum could be that big start. Essentially, again, all the work done for you, the curriculum, all the different lessons, it's all there for any Renaissance school to take advantage of. Now, if somehow, again, you aren't listed right now on the Jostens Renaissance list, you need to get listed. All you've got to do, contact your local Jostens representative, ask them for their Renaissance code. Then the next time you go to the Renaissance website, jostensrenaissance.com, in the upper right corner, click on there to register on the website, put in your information along with your representative's code. If your school currently works with Jostens for class jewelry, yearbooks, and other items, you have free reign over everything on the website as long as you want. If somehow you don't work with Jostens right now, okay, at least you have access for 30 days after you register. And while you're in there, take a good look and then ask yourself, what other companies out there offer this kind of support? We think it's a pretty short list. So contact your Jostens representative if you haven't already. Again, ask them for their Renaissance code, put that in, and then start to really see the power of Renaissance and how it can affect your school positively. Again, no level, elementary, middle school, high school, any level out there, it is possible to do. And possibly it all starts with student leadership. And that's where we're going to pick up our conversation with our special guest, Christina Onuskanich.
Now, one thing we didn't mention earlier, and we should have, a couple years ago, you were one of our Jostens Renaissance National Educators of the Year, blow horns and all that sort of stuff. And I was the lucky guy to surprise you on the football field in front of everybody when you had no idea what was coming. I will never forget that day. We got you good. All right, there we go. So that's pretty good. And one reason you got the Educator of the Year award, you have done great things with student leadership. Jostens Renaissance has a special student leadership curriculum, which you have used very actively. So let's start with that, all right? First off, what is this curriculum? I mean, from your use, describe the Renaissance student leadership curriculum. What is it? How have you used it? Tell us about that.
Well, Scott, we looked at the curriculum and I pitched it to my principal at the time and said, I think that our students would really benefit from this. I think that we have given them some opportunities to be leaders, but we really need to focus on those leadership skills and develop their character a little bit more. So I was able to pilot a 7th grade leadership workshop class the year after we came back from COVID. So that was kind of a crazy year in and of itself. But the kids really enjoyed the lessons. And what we did is we looked at the school culture and climate unit, which really is the best place to start because it gives students an understanding of what climate and culture is. Plus, it helps them just really appreciate what's going on in their school and celebrate the things that are going well within their school. It also teaches them how to show up for each other. You have to build that community, build that culture within your school where everybody shows up for everybody else. And it's not just your athletes and your academic students, it's everybody. So, we've really tried to implement that particular unit at the 7th grade level, but then also go into the individuality and branding unit as well for our 7th graders. Now, this is only a semester course, so those are really the only 2 units that we get through because there are so many things packed into those lessons. And, I took it slow with our students because this was something they had never learned about before. And what I found is they got excited about the lessons. The activities that are incorporated into the lessons are highly engaging. They make students think outside the box. And one of the things that I love most about teaching this curriculum is the fact that my students say, Mrs. O, we actually get to talk about these things. and have meaningful conversations in the classroom. They, love the Harbor videos because they give them something to think about, and they open that doorway for them to have some of those meaningful conversations that they might not be having in other places. But it makes them think about who they are as leaders and what they can do for our school. So I think those 2 units are really, really important for our 7th graders. This year, I'm going to be teaching the 8th grade leadership workshop. So we're going to focus on the next 2 units, which are all about leadership mindset and how to grow as leaders. So I'm really excited that I get to double up and have my 7th grade leaders now as 8th grade leaders. So I'll be really, really excited to see what their take is on the upcoming units. Now, one other thing that I've done with the leadership class is I've incorporated book studies, because my students as leaders also need to be readers. So in 7th grade, they read Mike Smith's book, Legacy versus Likes. And that is such a great book for them because they like it. They actually ask me if it's a Mike Smith day because they want to read that book. They want to hear his story, and they love the challenges. They love the discussion questions, and they really enjoy the Harbor videos that are matched up with the different chapters of the book. So that's part of our 7th grade workshop. Our 8th grade workshop, they're going to be reading Frank Rudnesky's book, 50 Great Things a Leader Should Do. I believe that's the title. I could be wrong because I just purchased the book and I'm forgetting the exact title off the top of my head right now. But so I really try to find a book that touches on what we're going to be learning about in the lessons, but also helps them just develop more of those leadership skills and really hear from somebody who is out there living a leadership lifestyle. And, knowing the people that have written these books really makes it even better because, I've met Mike. He's an awesome individual. I've met Frank. He's phenomenal. So, it's really neat to be able to have those conversations with students about people that are out there leading. And, they're just regular people. Well, they're not regular, they're extraordinary. But, they think of leaders as politicians and, people that are doing these, really, really big things. But what they understand through these book studies is, wow, these people are just like me. I could do that. I could go and do big things. I could make a difference. I can be a leader. So, that's just one thing that I've done to really enhance that leadership role for our students and get them to dive into something beyond the curriculum.
All right, now this next question may sound a little harsh, but I bet we've got somebody checking this out and their thought is, okay, and maybe their thought up until listening here is, this is too much for middle schoolers. They can't handle this. They're not mature enough. This is primarily for high school and so on. Now, you just gave a great response there, but let's follow up. Why is this not too much for middle schoolers? In fact, it may be perfect for middle schoolers. Describe that, please.
Well, because it really touches on life and the things that we get to talk about, the different topics that come up, they're real life topics. One of my favorite lessons for 7th grade is a lesson called Judgment Calls. And when we talk about the different scenarios and how they might respond, you can just feel the difference in the classroom, those aha moments, because they may have encountered those experiences already, or at least know somebody who has. And if we don't have those conversations with our kids when they're going through those things, they could go down the wrong path, make a wrong choice, make a wrong turn, and, not really know how to pivot and find a different direction. So, our kids aren't getting any younger. And the world isn't allowing them to stay young for very long. So we need to make sure that we are preparing them for what life is throwing at them so that they can rise and they can lead and they can make the good choices that we all know they're capable of making.
All right, now you've been doing this a couple years, which means those original kids, I guess, have now matriculated up to high school. I don't know, do you follow them, Christina? Do you track them? I mean, once they get to the next level, do they keep going? Does it somehow get lost in translation and so on? I'm just wondering if these kids are picking up what they learned from you in middle school and finding some way to apply it in high school. Anything on that?
They definitely are. So interestingly enough, the students who were in 8th grade, whenever we kicked off the year with PC and ended the year with Mike Smith right before COVID, those students were in 8th grade. They just graduated this year. And there were a lot of things that they wanted to see happen. So their senior year, they started the senior sunrise. They started the senior walk at our high school. So, they're learning that no matter what level they're at, they can lead. And if there's something that they want to start, they pitch the idea, they run with it, they find the people that can help them make it happen, and they're building that climate and culture at the next level. Even at the college level, some of them have said, I want to try some of these things at college. They're finding ways to interact with their new classmates at the college level. They're, doing some simple things like just putting something on their whiteboard for everybody to see. I just had a student tell me, hey, I started this thing, Mrs. O, and I decided that I was going to put a tic-tac-toe board on my whiteboard and just see what happens. And, within a day, everybody in my hallway is now playing tic-tac-toe on my board. So, like they're learning how to do different things. But the exciting thing is that whatever new opportunity they have, whatever new experience they have, they're remembering what it feels like to lead and connect with people. And they're taking that with them. And that's what leaders do.
Exactly. That's what leaders do. Now, this next question may not be fair because you're a teacher, not an administrator. But when I have a chance to talk to administrators, they always seem to want proof. We want proof that something works, numbers, statistics, trends, all that sort of stuff. From your experience the last few years in your school, do you have any proof, like anything you can absolutely point to and say, yep, there it is, right there. That's our proof. Anything like that?
Absolutely. Our principals last year were really big on looking at data from last year to the following year. And, they were always pointing out, last year at this time, this is what our behavior referrals were. This year at this time, our behavior referrals are down by this percentage. Our attendance is up by this percentage. So, they're paying attention to those data pieces and they're sharing them out, which is huge. And we looked at data before, but I think the way that it's being shared now is really, really important because it gets kids to think about how much difference they can make from year to year. So yeah, we are improving our data points all the time, whether it is attendance, behavior. We're still looking for new ways to, really amp up some of the other areas where we might not be seeing as much of an increase, but yeah, across the board, we're seeing a lot of positive increases with our numbers. So it's really exciting to see that take place.
Pretty cool. Now, we've been talking about kids. What about the adults? Christina, I keep seeing stories all the time in various media. Teacher morale is still low. Teacher shortages seemingly everywhere. Lots of troubles, even like support staff, I know, bus drivers and lunch ladies. We can't seem to find enough of them because morale is so low. What about your building? All right, you've been doing this for a number of years. What's the reaction from staff and faculty, what we call staffalty? What's the reaction among those folks to all the different things that you've been doing?
People feel better. It's nice to walk into the faculty lounge and have treats, and it's nice to feel recognized by your students, and it's nice to feel recognized and appreciated by your administrators. Just hearing your administrators say, I appreciate you, and the work you do is meaningful and it matters. nobody can really argue with that. That's a great thing to be able to hear, but it's also even more important to know that it's real and to feel it. And I think that a lot of the things that we've done have really allowed us to feel like our time here is valued. When you look at the adults and you see smiles on their faces, that's a good feeling. And, we really are trying to make sure that we're doing fun things for our faculty. And I really have to give our principals a lot of credit, because they're taking a lot of new things and a lot of new ideas, and, just trying to do some things that liven up the day for us. We might have some, silly faculty challenge where we have to go around the school throughout the day and find a shamrock. And if we do, then we turn it into the office and we get a special treat. Those are just some really fun things that, make us a little bit happy during the day. They're kind of silly, but just like I said, middle schoolers are still kids. Guess what? Adults are still kids too. Hence the reason we're in the world of working with kids, because we like to have fun too.
Absolutely. All right. Yes. I don't know. When did we lose that? I don't understand. All right. One final question, then we're done. Again, I'm going to assume we got some folks checking this out. They've heard everything you've said, and they probably are thinking, I hope, hey, we got to do that. That's something we need to start doing at my building or at my district or something like that. Some advice for just kind of getting started. Now, maybe you can turn the clock back a few years to some of the things you talked about earlier. But for folks who want to get something kind of just off the ground or do something new, something you mentioned connected with PBIS and all that sort of thing, what are some thoughts about just helping folks get going and hopefully going in the right direction? Do you have one or two, three ideas? What would you say?
I would say look around your campus. Find out an area that could use a facelift. For us, it was the hallways. We wanted to see kids smiling in the hallways. So that's where we started the high five zones. And, the added piece that we did along with putting up the signs that said high five zones, we painted our students' hands and had them put their handprints on the wall, because the wall was beige, and beige is really boring. So look around your campus and figure out how to make it look like kids should want to be there. Because if you change the look of your school, you change how people feel when they're in it. So I would say that's always a good place to start. But then just think small, standing at your door and high-fiving your students on their way into the classroom really says a lot more than a teacher sitting at their desk as their kids are coming into the classroom. So, you can think really big and you can think really small, but just really pay attention to the areas that need the most work and get ready to dig in and get started.
Well, Christina, my friend, I am honored to be your friend, because whenever we see each other, it's not even a thought. We give a big hug. Got a big hug. And I hope you I know you're going to keep doing great things at your school. And again, kind of expanding out to the other schools in your district, which is really terrific. If we can find a way to make this a K through 12 effort, that is just phenomenal. That's great. So Christina, I really appreciate your time in the conversation today, and thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome, Scott. Thank you for having me, and thanks for being the person that really got this whole thing started. Because if it wasn't for you dragging me to that first event, I don't know that we would be where we're at right now. So thank you.
Team effort, all right? Not one guy, team effort. But thanks again for your time today.
You're welcome. Thank you, Scott.
A big thank you to our guest, Christina Onuskanich from Pennsylvania, for joining us in this episode. We hope you got some great ideas and inspiration here, and be sure to listen to the rest of our Renaissance Report series for more insights on education today and how to improve school climate, culture, and morale so that everybody wins, students and adults. Thanks again for listening. See you next time.